Welcome to week 3. This week we're going to be looking at how to create patterns using grids and how to create patterns using masks. And you'll be able to see from the different techniques how you can then apply those to card making, fabric printing, cushions, placemats, you name it. This is where your imagination can really go a bit wild now. So again, this is the time to put the kettle on, get yourself steady, and let's get going. Let's begin today by looking at how we can use grids to create patterns like these that are pretty symmetrical and are repetitive patterns. Because you can then transfer this onto fabric as well if you wanted to make something out of fabric. So let's have a look at how we do this. So it's a really simple procedure. I've done a big one here for you to see how you would create a grid. Now I've used a big piece of paper and I've used very heavy lines just because I wanted you to be able to see very clearly how I've done this. You wouldn't do your lines quite so thick because they need to be able to be rubbed out afterwards. So here's another one. If I hold that up, you can maybe just see how faint the lines are that I've actually put on there. And what I've done is I've taken a 7" by 7" piece of card. I've left a ½ inch gap all the way around the edge, and then I've divided the square in the middle into 9 2" squares. So 2" 2" 2" 2" 2" 2", and that's given me, just the same as that, that's given me 9 squares. So you can see here that that's how this was created. Now, in actual fact, this was created by eye because it's very rare that I actually use a drawn grid. But when you're just starting out, if you're not quite confident about being able to do it for eye, then using a grid, doing it by eye, then using a grid is a really, really good way to get yourself started. So we'll take one of the blocks, and I'm going to ink up. And I'm going to put that directly in the middle of the square. And repeat the process. Line it up in the middle of the square and keep going until we've done every other one. A bit like playing noughts and crosses is this. Now the lines are very faint and I can only just see where I've marked them. So it's a bit of a fine line between not drawing them too heavy but also being able to see where you've actually put them. But you do want to be able to rub them out afterwards, so just bear that in mind when you're drawing them. So as you can see, they're lovely and symmetrical now. If you could imagine that on a bag, shopping bag, or even on a cushion, scaled up a bit bigger, you start to get an idea of what you can create there, especially when we start going onto fabric. But it's great to be doing all this practicing onto paper first, because that's going to give you a really good foundation then for when you want to work on fabric. So let's choose another block here, and I'm going to do this one, which is quite a solid one. It's quite a solid block, is that, and I'm going to use a slightly paler colour because it is so solid, I'm going to take a baby blue with this. And the reason I'm choosing a paler one is because I'm going to draw into this one afterwards. So again, watch where you're putting it. There we go, that's lovely. It's almost like a sunflower, isn't it? Just got a bit of something on there. We'll wipe that off and start again. Keep repeating the process until you're done. There we go, that looks really nice, and that's the first layer, if you like. Now what I suggest we do is just build a little bit up on each of these things here, on each of these images. I'm going to take another little block. You've seen me use this one before. You'll have to excuse me, the cat's in the background and she's doing a bit of, excuse me, sorry about that, the cat was telling me that she wanted to go out. Where were we? I'm using this little block again. We've used this before. I've used this one before in week 1, and I'm using it because I'm going to just keep building up the depth. I keep going on about building up the depth, but you can see from here, although that's pretty, it's just lacking in a bit of oomph. So the minute I do this, we start to get a bit more richness into this, as you can see. Oops, need to put it in the wrong one then. Not to be recommended. But that's really starting to look very attractive now. As you can see. And I'm even going to go one step further and add my favourite little circle. Just clean that one off. This time I'm going to do the middle in black. And that gives it even more depth again. Now what we could also do here, because we've got this grid, we could also use the corner parts where the squares meet each other to add a little something as well. So we could take an element of this design here, which we could do it with the little circle, so let's do that. And again, you know that you're going to get it into place because you're going to use the grid as your guide. So you can make your pattern as simple or as complex as you want it to be using the grid, knowing with a little bit of practice that you're going to get it pretty symmetrical. There we go. I'm going to take that out even further. So that you can really see how that pattern then could be repeated. Turn it around. And do it on the corners here. Oops. You're getting the picture now, aren't you? Keep managing to get paint on the edge there because the pad's so big. The ink pad is so big. And the last one, there we go. So that's looking rather lovely. Now we could, if we wanted to, work a little bit more into those pale blue, but actually I quite like the simplicity of them because there's enough going on with the rest of it. So I think we'll leave that just as it is. Now I know that the ink dries very quickly, but I'm just going to let that one dry for a few more minutes actually, just to make sure that the black is dry before I start rubbing out the pencil lines. So we'll just pop that to one side and then have a look at creating a different kind of grid. I've taken this grid a step further, so I've started off with the same thing as that again, 9 squares, but if you can see I've broken it down then into even smaller squares. So they are 1 inch in diameter, and then they've got a diagonal line running through them all as well. Now this just helps if we want to do something that's slightly on the diagonal. So I'm going to use a leaf stamp here and this lovely pale aqua colour. And because the leaf has got a slightly curving stem going up the middle of it, I'm going to use the tip of either end of the leaf and line it up with the diagonal that's running on here, so that again I know just exactly where I'm putting the leaf. So this is really helping me to get the leaf on the line and get it lined up with those. I'm going to turn that around and do exactly the same going across here as well. So I'm squaring the block up with the square on the paper and then using the diagonal line to match up with the bottom of the leaf stem and the top of the leaf itself. It's really handy using these grids if that's the kind of pattern that you're wanting to create. So the square block in the centre of the square and the points lining up with the diagonals. There we go with that one. I'm going to swap over now to this lovely shape, and the centre of this one I'm going to line up. Here's this square here, so the centre of that I'm going to line up with the point in the middle where all the lines meet each other. And again, line it up with that point there. And with that one there. So that is very symmetrical now. If you want to work further into that, you can do, obviously. We could add little bits and pieces to it. In fact, we could even add, using my acrylic pen, if I can find where I've put it, here we go. Here's my little gold pen. Actually, before, no, yeah, we'll do that right now. So just always test your pen, first of all, on the paper to make sure that it's not going to blob on you. And I'm literally just going to make some dots where the lines cross over each other. Very simple design, but rather effective. Sometimes simple is best. So I'm going to put that to one side now. Using the acrylic pen, in fact, because it is in fact paint in a pen, it will need to dry before we rub the lines out on this. Just going over those to make them a little bit bigger in places. There we go. I would love a duvet cover done like this. That would be a really nice design in a duvet. Take a while to do on a plain white duvet, but you could do it. So let's leave that to one side and go back to the other one for a moment and see how easy it is now to rub out these lines. See, that's no problem at all. They were nice and light. It's not smudging the ink. And by the time we've rubbed it all out, you wouldn't even know there'd been any pencil lines there. Blow off. One left there, look. And that's lovely. I'm not going to do the other one just yet because I think the paint might still be a little bit wet, so I am going to leave that for a little bit longer yet. But you get the general idea as to how to create a grid, and you can create as many squares as you want. I just did it in a square of 9 because that's really easy to start off with. You can do as many squares as you like. You know, that it's entirely up to you really, but I just thought we'd start with that because it's a nice simple way to get started using the grids to create the kind of patterns that you might like to play with. going to have a look now at how to create this lovely flowing design on here using masks. And what we're using here is the background here is actually watercolour paint, because it's a bit more transparent than acrylic paint. So you can get, again, a bit more of a depth with it than you can with the acrylic. You can do this technique with acrylic as well, so do have a play around. I've shown you how to do a few acrylic things, so I thought I'd bring in a little bit of watercolour for you just now. This was done with watercolour pencils. It gives a similar effect, not quite the same, but a similar effect. So we're going to look at both of these techniques and adapt them to your acrylic paints if you want to. I'll show you something, if you don't have any paints whatsoever, I'll show you a slightly different technique at the end, where you can still get this lovely flowing kind of raggedy edge. So let's have a go first of all with the mask and the gold watercolour paint. And it doesn't matter what paint you use, it doesn't matter what design you use on it, whether it's leaves, circles, flowers, grasses, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The technique's exactly the same, and it's just something that once you know the technique, you can then play around with and experiment for yourself. So once you've taken the card or paper that you're going to work on, what you need to do is to just put a little bit of low-tack masking tape. The reason we use low-tack is that when we peel it off, it doesn't pull the surface of the card off. So just to keep that in place whilst you're going to be doing some painting. The next thing is to take a sheet of paper, and it can be computer printing paper, if you like, or something from your scrapbook, and just tear a shape out of it like this. So you end up with two pieces like this. Put the top one, now it's worth actually measuring here just for the moment. Let's just measure for a minute. So this little piece of card, let's do centimetres. This piece of card is 13 centimetres, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where it's 3 centimetres at that side, 3 centimetres here. Just make a little mark, tiny little mark, don't forget we can rub them out. So I'm marking 3 centimetres and 3 centimetres at either edge, because I want the paper to come like this. So you can see the 3 centimetres there, and you can see the 3 centimetres there. And again, we need to mask that into place, put some masking tape into place. And what I would suggest is that you do it right up to the edge of the card so that it really doesn't move. Like that. And then we're going to get the bottom bit, and we're going to get the bit that joins it, if you like. So pull that down and find your 3 centimetre mark, and there it is again. Now this is actually going to, when I look at it this way around, it's not going to give me a great deal of space at the bottom, so actually I'm going to push that up a bit further until I feel that I've got a similar gap at the card at the bottom to what I've got at the top. I'm going to put it up even a bit further. So that 3 centimetre rule there didn't really apply at the bottom. So just move it to where you think it looks the best for the kind of gap that you want to create, and mask that one in place as well. There we go. Now, as I say, you can do this with acrylic paint if that's all you've got. Just make sure it's fairly watery. I'm going to use this flat brush again, simply because I just find it a very useful one to work with. I've got my watercolour paint here, this lovely gold colour I'm going to use, and my piece of kitchen roll to dab out onto. So I want this fairly solid gold colour here. Now if I just want to test what it looks like, I can do a little bit of that on the paper there, and that's rather lovely. So what we do here is we just bring it down in broad brush strokes, and that's all we're doing. Now it might seep underneath the paper, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. You can go both ways, up and down. A little bit more water needed there. And you can have, try not to make it too watery because that really will seep underneath, but you can have thicker pieces like this, look. When I say thicker pieces, I mean slightly more opaque looking, so that you can actually let the paint sort of graduate in colour. So we might want to go really deep at this end and let it stay quite faded at that end, or we might want to make it slightly more deeper at this end, in which case we can paint over what we've already done. A little bit more water on that one, not too much water. Again, it's good, would be good to practice on some scrappy pieces of paper first, because this does take a little bit of practice getting this to do this, getting this technique just as you want it. So let's see what happens now when we take those pieces off. I'm only going to take one off just to show you one side of it. And that's great, that's the effect that we're after. But we're going to put that back because we want this to dry so that we can then stamp over it. So let's just leave that to dry for a moment. So this technique starts off the same way again. We're going to create something along the lines of this one. And again, I've started by attaching the card with masking tape to the surface, and we're going to do the same procedure again, tearing in half, well not in half, but tearing on a curve, two pieces of paper. I'm going to mask that in place again. Close to the edge of the card. Find out where the bit is that matches it. In fact, actually, I'm going to make this a wee bit bigger, actually. The space that we're going to paint over, I'm going to make a little bit bigger. So let's have you there instead. That's better. And about there, I think. Mask it right up to the edge of the card again. Now this time I'm using watercolour pencils. Doesn't matter if you don't have any, don't feel you need to go out and buy any. I just wanted to show you what you could do. I'm just going to start off very lightly. By going over the surface with two different colours, in fact. Carefully going over the edge. And then back to this colour again. Doesn't really matter what colours you choose. These just happen to be ones that I like working with. Let's bring a bit of that blue into that corner. You can see again how fast I'm doing this. I'm not being precious about it. And taking your brush, just run some water over it and get this lovely effect. You can blend it. You can do whatever you like with it. That's the beauty of watercolour pencils. You've got a lot of application, a lot of flexibility with how you can use them. So I'm kind of going with the curve, and I'm also going diagonally as well. So it gives a bit of an interesting texture then. You've already got interest there before you even start printing. Now if I wanted to add a little bit more colour, perhaps up here, just put the pencil back on again. A little bit down here maybe. And just play with the water again. And just smooth that out. As I say, you can get this effect with very watered down acrylic paint as well. I'm going to take the mask off just to see what's happened underneath there. It might have bled a little bit, and that's okay. No, that's actually quite a clean line. Now with this one, if you look, it did bleed quite a lot, but I really liked the effect, so I left it. So if you put more water on, you'll get more of a bleed effect underneath the mask, and that's fine as well. That works really well. So we'll just leave that for the moment to dry, and good time to go and put the kettle on again and just think about what kind of stamping you want to do over the top of it. So this is now dried enough for me to stamp over, and I'm going to use this interesting stamp that I found just recently of cogs. I think that would work quite well on here. So I'm going to start off with a brick colour. Get that inked up really well. Now, as you can see, I've gone over the mask as well, and that's what we want. Let's do that again. I was going to use two colours, but I think I might just stick to one even. I'm going to turn that around a little bit so that that bit there fits into this gap here quite nicely. There we go. Keep inking and keep stamping. Now I'd like to get that lovely big wheel actually in here, so I'm going to use it that way this time. Which leaves me a little bit of a gap there, which is okay. That might be okay. We'll have a look when I finish stamping and see if that gap needs filling in or not. And we'll do that by just peeling the mask off to see what we think. Going to do that. No, let's, which way will we do this one? Let's do that one that way. And I'm going to peel that mask off now just to see, do we need to fill this gap in here, or is it looking perfectly fine just as it is? So if we peel both sides off, top and bottom, you can see that lovely effect there. I think I might just fill in that gap, so I'm going to put that one back and that one back, and I've still got a little bit of ink just there, so in fact we'll just ink it up to make sure. Pop that into there like that. Now it doesn't matter that it's going to go over that there because that's on the mask side, so that doesn't matter. There we go. Peel the mask off completely. And you see What a lovely effect that's created. Peel off your low tack masking tape, do it gently and carefully. Just get rid of that. And that's created something rather lovely. You could have it any way around you wanted, whichever way you felt was more appropriate. And of course you can add words to it as well. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to add some kind of greeting on it or some kind of well wish on it. I just need to decide what. So I found a little birthday wish here, and I'm going to use the same colour that I used for the stamping. And of course make sure that it's the right way around and not upside down. And I'm just going to put that there, more or less in the middle. May your birthday be a special celebration and a wonderful day to remember. Now what I'm also going to do, which I didn't do with that one there, so I left that one, apart from the little bit of text down here, I left that one as it is, but I'm actually going to do a little extra something on this one. I'm going to bring the cogwheels back again and ink them up. And just put a little bit on the corners. Now it would have been useful if I'd have put a little bit of paper underneath there, so let's use one of the masks and ink up again. And I think that just adds to it. I don't think it needs anything at the top particularly. Let's even do a little bit more just there. There we go. I think that's really rather lovely. I'm very, very pleased with that, I have to say. I'd be delighted to receive that card. So there you have it. So that's now dry enough to print on, and I'm going back to one of my favourite stamping packs here with the lovely leaves and circles on. So I'm just going to start off with ultramarine blue onto this circle here. Change that for another one. I really like this one here. Swap to a different blue and go to the Atlantic colour. Well, this is quite a pale one, so I'm just going to test this out first near it to see whether or not I think that will show up enough. And yes, I think it will. So we'll carry on with that. Yep, that shows up rather lovely. Yes, I like that very much. A little bit of paint left on there, ink left on there, so I'm just going to put a bit on there. Wipe that off. Swap it for this one. And take the midnight blue. And let's see what that looks like just there. That's fun. I could do this for hours, you know. Let's have you there as well. And that's enough, I think. Let's just see, give it a quick pull up to see what we've created there. Let's see whether we need to add anything else or not. Let's have a look. And I mean, that's just great, isn't it? I just love that, that's so nice. And I found a little, where have I put it? Oh, I seem to know, there it is. I found a little saying that I'm just going to add to this. And I'm going to do it in the midnight blue. I'm going to pop that down there. Oh, now then, how does that, oh, that way around, there we go. A simple hello. How fun is that? So hopefully you can, whoops, now then, I've pulled that off too fast and I've spoiled the paper there, as you can see. So let's pull this off and gently take this one off. I got a bit excited there, didn't I? There we go. And that's already a really nice card. And of course, like the other ones, like we did with the other ones where we created envelopes that matched them. Can I find where I've put those? Not in this moment, but that's okay. You can, of course, create an envelope to go with that. I think that's rather lovely. So have fun with those techniques, and next week we'll be looking at printing onto fabric. So I'll give you a little peek at what's ahead for next week. This is what we're going to be doing next week, painting onto fabric, printing onto fabric. Now this is one piece that I've already done, and I chopped it in half and I've washed this piece here. First of all, I've printed it, then I've ironed it, and then I've washed it. Now I did do that on a 60 wash, which was perhaps a little bit too high. You can see that it's faded ever so slightly when you compare these colours here. But I'm really pleased actually with how that's come out. Very pleased with it. So that could be turned into anything you want now. Makeup bag, cushion, bag, apron, whatever you like. I'm thinking when I'm done with these that I might actually make my own face masks. So that's one design that I've been playing with. And this is another one that I also washed. So that was using that lovely cogwheel and then using my favourite circle on top of it and different colours in and amongst. And that came out really well as well, and washed as well. These were quite dark grey to start with, but as I've washed them again on the 60, they've come out into a slightly paler grey, and that's okay. I do like them. So it's worth, when you do some printing next week onto fabric, you know, do a little bit of a sample first, give it a wash and see how it's coming out. I think perhaps even just washing it on a 30 would have kept the colour a little bit more vibrant, but I'm still really pleased with the way this has come out. So that's what we're going to be playing with next week. So in the meantime, have fun with the techniques that I've shown you. Can you see all those? Yeah. Have a lot of fun. Experiment. Again, don't take it too seriously. Just see what you can do. And I look forward to tuning in with you next week as well.